what happened was there were a series of lawsuits that started last fall, and eventually a federal judge in D.C. ruled that the CDC didn't have the authority to impose the order, but she stayed that ruling while the case was on appeal. Then the appellate court disagreed with that judge and kept the stay in effect, and it went to the U.S. Supreme Court. 4 justices on the Supreme Court basically affirmed the stay of that ruling. 4 voted against it, and there was a last judge, Justice Kavanaugh, who said that he would vote to extend the stay on the order striking down the CDC eviction hold order, but only through the end of July, and that if the CDC tried to extend it further, basically he would change his vote and then strike it down. So that ruling came out at the end of June. Some people are upset that the Democrats knew at the end of June that Congress would need to act in order to extend the CDC order further and didn't try to have that congressional action sooner. But at the same time, the prospects of Congress, voting to do that without Republican support were pretty slim. So I think that's where that disagreement comes in.
Right, Eric, but we also have to bring up the American Rescue Plan that Owen briefly touched on. All that coronavirus relief money that Congress approved, in total, if I'm not mistaken, $46 billion to help pay the back rent, but only a tiny fraction of that has actually reached renters. So what happened there?
Well, before the Appropriations Act last December, as well as the Rescue Plan, the U.S. really didn't have the infrastructure to disseminate rental assistance across the country. So we had to, every state had to put programs together. They had to hire staff, they had to train staff, they had to develop procedures and forms to process applications. They had to get the word out to the communities that people could apply for these funds and then actually start reviewing those applications and getting the funding out. And that's taken time. And, a lot of these communities, are really starting from scratch. They just didn't have any programs like that pre-existing. So I think that's the main culprit. Of course, in some places, there's really been indifference about helping renters and landlords in getting the funds out. Some landlords have even said they're not interested in the money. They would rather just evict their tenants, even if the reason is because they haven't been paid. So it's been a combination of things, but I think really just starting from the ground up to build programs that can disseminate tens of billions of dollars is something that can't be done overnight.
So can renters still access that money now? Is it too late?
Well, people can still apply for the funds, and as long as they're still physically living in their apartments, they're still eligible for the money. And the law is different in every state as far as what the landlord's obligations are about accepting the money and allowing the tenant to remain and continue the tenancy. But for most landlords, I would think that if the money to pay the tenant's arrearage is there and the tenant can pay it, why wouldn't you take the money and let the tenant stay?
Right.